The autumn evening air carried a gentle chill through the streets of Madrid as guests began arriving at the royal palace. Inside the grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables adorned with white roses and golden accents. The annual Foundation Gala represented months of careful planning, bringing together Spain's most influential figures to support children's education initiatives across the country. King Felipe VI stood near the entrance, greeting dignitaries with practiced ease. His navy blue evening jacket complemented the formal atmosphere, while his genuine smile reflected years of diplomatic training. At 45, the king had grown comfortable in his role, understanding that every gesture carried symbolic weight for the Spanish people. Queen Letizia moved gracefully through the crowd, her burgundy silk gown flowing elegantly as she spoke with foundation donors. Her background as a journalist before joining the royal family had given her unique insight into public communication. She understood how to connect with people from all walks of life, making each conversation feel personal and meaningful. The evening's program included presentations from scholarship recipients, young students whose lives have been transformed through the Foundation's work. Maria Santos, a 17-year-old from Andalusia, stepped forward to address the gathering. Her family had struggled financially, but the Foundation's support had enabled her to pursue advanced studies in engineering. "Your Majesties," Maria began, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "This opportunity has changed everything for my family. My younger brothers now believe they can achieve their dreams too." The king and queen listened intently, understanding that moments like these represented the true purpose of their public service. They had established the foundation 5 years earlier, focusing specifically on educational equality in rural and economically disadvantaged communities throughout Spain. As Maria concluded her speech, spontaneous applause filled the room. The queen stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on the young woman's shoulder. "Your courage inspires all of us," she said warmly. "Education opens doors that seemed impossible to reach." The evening continued with musical performances by students from the Royal Conservatory. Their classical pieces created an atmosphere of elegance and cultural appreciation. Guests mingled freely, discussing not only charitable contributions, but also broader issues affecting Spanish society. Foreign ambassadors attended alongside Spanish business leaders, creating opportunities for cultural exchange and international cooperation. The British ambassador shared stories of similar educational initiatives in the United Kingdom, while the French representative discussed artistic exchange programs between their countries. Minister of Education Carlos Rodriguez approached the royal couple during dinner service. Recent statistics showed promising improvements in rural education access, directly correlating with foundation investments. "The program has exceeded our initial projections," he reported quietly. "We're reaching communities that have been overlooked for generations." Throughout the evening, photographers captured candid moments of interaction between the royals and their guests. These images would appear in newspapers across Europe, showcasing Spain's commitment to social progress and educational advancement. The Queen's choice of Spanish designer for her gown had not gone unnoticed. Fashion journalists appreciated her consistent support of domestic talent, understanding that royal choices influenced broader cultural trends. Her jewelry, featuring emeralds from Colombian mines, represented Spain's historical connections with Latin America. As dinner concluded, the king rose to address the assembly. His speech emphasized the foundation's core mission while acknowledging the collaborative effort required for meaningful social change. "Progress happens when we work together," he stated simply. "Tonight represents our shared commitment to Spain's future." The Queen nodded in agreement, her expression reflecting deep understanding of their shared responsibilities. Their partnership had evolved over 15 years of marriage, combining his constitutional duties with her communication expertise. Young musicians from Catalonia performed traditional folk songs, their voices harmonizing beautifully in the palace's acoustically designed ballroom. The cultural program celebrated Spain's regional diversity while emphasizing national unity through shared values and common goals. Guest tables buzzed with conversation about specific foundation projects. A new library in Extremadura had increased literacy rates by 30%. Computer laboratories in Galicia connected rural students with global learning opportunities. Mobile education units brought teachers to remote mountain communities. The evening's silent auction featured artwork donated by contemporary Spanish artists. Proceeds would fund additional scholarship programs, extending the foundation's reach to even more deserving students. Bidding became competitive as guests recognized both artistic value and charitable impact. As the formal program concluded, guests moved toward the palace gardens for coffee and continued conversation. The outdoor space had been decorated with thousands of small lights, creating a magical atmosphere under the star-filled Madrid sky. The king and queen circulated among their guests, ensuring personal attention from major donors while maintaining genuine warmth with all attendees. Their practiced coordination reflected years of public appearances, yet their authentic concern for the foundation's mission remained evident. Several university presidents approached with proposals for expanded partnerships. The foundation's success had attracted academic attention, creating opportunities for research collaboration and program development. These conversations would continue in formal meetings throughout the following weeks. As midnight approached, the evening began winding down. Guests expressed gratitude for the inspiring program while pledging continued support for educational initiatives. The foundation had raised significant funds, but more importantly, it had strengthened community connections and renewed commitment to social progress. The royal couple thanked their staff members, recognizing the countless hours of preparation required for such events. Palace personnel had worked seamlessly to create an evening that honored both royal tradition and contemporary social responsibility. Private conversations between the king and queen revealed their genuine satisfaction with the evening's success. They understood that effective philanthropy required more than financial resources. It demanded personal engagement and sustained commitment to meaningful change. As guests departed, the king and queen remained in the ballroom, reviewing the evening's highlights with foundation directors. Plans for next year's gala were already taking shape, building on lessons learned and expanding successful program elements. The candlelit atmosphere had created perfect conditions for intimate conversation and meaningful connection. Guests had experienced not just a formal royal event, but a genuine celebration of educational achievement and social progress. Late-night planning sessions with foundation staff revealed the evening's true impact. Pledge commitments had exceeded expectations, while new partnership opportunities promised expanded program reach. The combination of royal prestige and authentic mission had created powerful momentum for continued growth. The Queen's closing remarks to Foundation board members emphasized the importance of maintaining program quality while expanding access. Her journalist background informed her understanding of public accountability and transparent communication with donors and beneficiaries alike. As palace staff began cleanup operations, the king and queen took a final walk through the emptying ballroom. Crystal glasses reflected candlelight, while flower arrangements released gentle fragrances into the warm air. The evening had achieved its goals while creating lasting memories for all participants. Their shared glance across the elegant space conveyed mutual satisfaction with the foundation's continued success. Years of collaborative effort had established sustainable programs that would continue benefiting Spanish youth for generations to come. The following morning brought gentle sunlight through the tall windows of the royal private apartments. King Felipe sat at his mahogany desk, reviewing foundation reports while enjoying his traditional breakfast of coffee and toast. The previous evening's success had energized him, yet he understood that meaningful philanthropy required sustained attention beyond glamorous events. Queen Letizia emerged from her dressing room, already prepared for the day's scheduled activities. Her navy blazer and white blouse projected professional competence while maintaining royal elegance. She had learned to balance accessibility with appropriate dignity, understanding that public perception influenced the monarchy's effectiveness. Their teenage daughters, Princess Leonor and Infanta Sofia, joined them briefly before departing for school. The royal children maintained relatively normal routines despite their unique circumstances, attending classes with peers and participating in standard academic activities. Their parents had deliberately chosen this approach, believing that authentic understanding of Spanish society required genuine interaction with diverse communities. The scholarship recipients last night were remarkable, the Queen observed, settling in her chair with fresh fruit and yogurt. Maria's story particularly moved me. Her determination reminds me why we established the foundation. The king nodded thoughtfully. His own education had been privileged, but he recognized that circumstance should not determine opportunity. The rural programs show the most dramatic impact, he replied. Students who might never have considered university are now achieving remarkable success. Their conversation reflected years of shared commitment to social responsibility. Both understood that royal duties extended far beyond ceremonial appearances. They required genuine engagement with Spain's challenges and opportunities. Palace staff moved quietly through the apartment, preparing the king's briefing materials for morning meetings. His schedule included discussions with agricultural ministers about drought concerns affecting southern provinces. Climate change had created new pressures for farming communities, requiring coordinated government response. The Queen's calendar featured visits to women's organizations in Barcelona. Her advocacy for gender equality had evolved from personal conviction into systematic royal initiative. She had used her platform to highlight workplace discrimination while supporting legislative reforms protecting women's rights. Their breakfast routine included reviewing morning newspapers, both Spanish and international publications. Media coverage of the Foundation Gala had been overwhelmingly positive, emphasizing the event's charitable focus rather than celebrity aspects. This balance reflected careful palace communication strategy. European royal news included updates from neighboring monarchies. The Swedish crown princess had announced new environmental initiatives, while the Dutch king had addressed immigration challenges. Modern European royalty faced similar pressures to demonstrate contemporary relevance while respecting traditional roles. As morning meetings approached, the king and queen coordinated their schedules for the coming week. A state visit from the president of Colombia required careful preparation, while domestic concerns demanded ongoing attention. Their partnership had evolved into seamless collaboration on public responsibilities. The king's personal secretary entered with updated briefing materials about water management projects in Andalusia. Prolonged drought had created serious concerns for agricultural communities, requiring both immediate assistance and long-term planning. Royal attention to such issues could help maintain public focus on important policy decisions. Queen Letizia reviewed invitations for upcoming cultural events, including a contemporary art exhibition featuring works by Spanish women artists. Her patronage of cultural institutions had consistently emphasized diversity and inclusion, challenging traditional artistic hierarchies while supporting emerging talent. Their discussion about the previous evening's success gradually shifted toward future foundation initiatives. Plans for expanding programs into urban areas had gained momentum, particularly focusing on immigrant communities facing educational barriers. Integration challenges required sensitive approaches that respected cultural differences while promoting shared civic values. The Queen's experience as a journalist informed her understanding of public communication challenges. She had learned to present complex issues in accessible language while avoiding oversimplification. This skill proved invaluable when explaining royal initiatives to diverse audiences. Morning sunlight illuminated the apartment's classical furnishings, creating warm atmosphere for their private conversation. Persian carpets and oil paintings reflected centuries of royal tradition, yet contemporary touches demonstrated adaptation to modern sensibilities. Their teenage daughters had inherited both parents' intelligence and social awareness. Princess Leonor, as future queen, received additional constitutional education, but both girls understood their responsibilities to Spanish society. Their parents had emphasized service over privilege throughout their upbringing. The king's military background influenced his approach to problem-solving, emphasizing systematic analysis and clear objectives. His service in the armed forces had provided practical understanding of institutional leadership, skills that proved valuable in constitutional monarchy. As morning meetings approached, palace staff arranged transportation and security details. Royal movements required careful coordination, balancing accessibility with necessary protection. The king and queen had consistently pushed for minimal security presence, believing that excessive barriers damaged public connection. Their discussion touched on economic concerns affecting working families throughout Spain. Unemployment rates, while improving, remained troubling in certain regions. Royal Foundation programs could not solve structural economic problems, but they could provide individual opportunities that created broader positive impact. The Queen's advocacy work had earned respect across political divides. Her careful approach to controversial issues demonstrated how royal influence could promote social progress without partisan politics. She had learned to emphasize shared values rather than specific policy positions. Private moments like these allowed genuine reflection on their shared mission. Away from public scrutiny, they could discuss doubts, concerns, and hopes for Spain's future. Their marriage had matured through mutual commitment to service beyond personal interests. The king's constitutional role required careful balance between ceremonial duties and substantive engagement. He had worked to modernize the monarchy while respecting traditional expectations. His approach emphasized transparency and accountability, recognizing that public trust required continuous effort. As they prepared to begin their separate schedules, both reflected on the foundation's growing impact. 5 years of sustained work had created measurable improvements in educational access, but significant challenges remained. Their commitment would require decades of continued effort. The Queen gathered her briefing materials for the Barcelona visit, including statistics about women's employment patterns and wage disparities. Her advocacy relied on factual evidence rather than emotional appeals, building credible arguments for necessary reforms. Their farewell embrace reflected genuine affection strengthened by shared purpose. 15 years of marriage had created deep partnership extending beyond personal relationship into collaborative public service. They understood that their individual efforts supported common goals for Spanish society. Morning preparations concluded with final schedule confirmations and security briefings. The day ahead would bring them into contact with hundreds of Spanish citizens, each interaction representing opportunity for meaningful connection and mutual understanding. Palace staff completed arrangements for their separate departures, ensuring that both the king and queen could focus entirely on their respective responsibilities. Their coordinated approach to royal duties had become a model for effective constitutional monarchy in contemporary Europe. The public ceremony, the Grand Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, filled with morning light as hundreds of pilgrims and dignitaries gathered for the annual St. James celebration. This ancient ceremony connected modern Spain with centuries of religious and cultural tradition, drawing visitors from across Europe and Latin America to honor the patron saint of Spain. King Felipe and Queen Letizia arrived precisely at 11 o'clock, their motorcade navigating narrow cobblestone streets lined with enthusiastic crowds. The historic city had prepared for months to welcome the royal couple, decorating ancient buildings with Spanish flags and flower arrangements that created a festive atmosphere throughout the medieval quarter. Archbishop Martinez waited at the cathedral entrance, his ceremonial robes reflecting the solemnity of the occasion. The religious leader had served the Santiago diocese for 12 years, building bridges between traditional Catholic practice and contemporary social concerns. His relationship with the royal family emphasized shared commitment to serving Spanish communities. Inside the cathedral, magnificent stone arches soared overhead while stained glass windows cast colorful patterns across gathered worshippers. The ancient building had witnessed 8 centuries of Spanish history, from medieval pilgrimages through modern constitutional monarchy. Its walls contained stories of faith, struggle, and national identity. The royal couple walked slowly down the central aisle, acknowledging familiar faces among the congregation. Regional government officials sat alongside local business leaders, while representatives from various Spanish provinces demonstrated the ceremony's national significance. International pilgrims added global dimension to the traditional Spanish celebration. Queen Letizia wore a black mantilla, the traditional Spanish veil that honored both religious custom and cultural heritage. Her choice of accessories demonstrated respect for regional traditions while maintaining contemporary elegance. The delicate lacework had been crafted by artisans from Andalusia, supporting traditional Spanish craftsmanship. The ceremony began with traditional hymns performed by the cathedral choir, their voices echoing beautifully throughout the ancient stone structure. Latin verses alternated with Spanish prayers, creating linguistic bridge between historical tradition and modern worship. The musical program celebrated both religious devotion and cultural continuity. During the formal liturgy, the king and queen participated according to constitutional protocol while respecting their personal faith. Spain's religious heritage remained important to many citizens, requiring royal acknowledgement of Catholic traditions without imposing specific beliefs on diverse Spanish society. Archbishop Martinez delivered a homily emphasizing pilgrimage as metaphor for personal and collective growth. His words addressed contemporary challenges while drawing wisdom from centuries of spiritual tradition. The message resonated with both religious believers and those appreciating cultural significance of the ceremony. Following traditional prayers, the royal couple approached the altar for the ceremonial blessing. This ancient ritual symbolized divine protection for Spain's leadership while acknowledging the sacred responsibility of public service. Hundreds of cameras captured the moment for national and international media distribution. The blessing ceremony required specific positioning as the archbishop extended his hands in traditional gesture. King Felipe stood to the right, Queen Letizia to the left, both bowing their heads respectfully. The solemnity of the moment reflected deep awareness of their constitutional and spiritual responsibilities. As the archbishop concluded the formal blessing, he gestured for the royal couple to exchange the traditional peace greeting. This ceremony dated back centuries, symbolizing unity between spiritual and temporal authority in Spanish governance. The gesture carried profound historical significance for constitutional monarchy. King Felipe turned toward his wife, his expression reflecting the ceremony's sacred nature. Queen Letizia faced him with equal reverence, understanding that their public actions carried symbolic weight for millions of Spanish citizens watching throughout the country and Spanish-speaking communities worldwide. Their eyes met briefly before the king placed his hands gently on the queen's shoulders. The cathedral fell completely silent as hundreds of worshippers witnessed this traditional moment of spiritual and marital unity. Television cameras from major Spanish networks captured every detail for national broadcast. The gentle kiss they shared lasted only seconds, but embodied decades of shared commitment to Spain and each other. It represented not romantic display, but rather ceremonial expression of partnership in service to their country. The gesture honored both religious tradition and constitutional duty. Applause filled the cathedral as the congregation recognized the beauty and significance of the moment. Children in traditional Spanish costumes clapped enthusiastically while elderly pilgrims nodded with satisfaction. The ceremony had successfully connected ancient traditions with contemporary Spanish identity. The remainder of the service included prayers for Spain's prosperity and peace throughout the world. Special intentions were offered for regions affected by economic hardship, natural disasters, and social challenges. The royal couple joined in these prayers with evident sincerity and personal investment. Following the formal ceremony, the king and queen processed slowly toward the cathedral exit, stopping frequently to greet pilgrims and local residents. Their accessibility during such moments demonstrated democratic values within constitutional monarchy, emphasizing service rather than privilege. Outside the cathedral, thousands of citizens had gathered in the ancient plaza. Their enthusiastic welcome reflected genuine affection for the royal couple, based on years of dedicated public service and authentic engagement with Spanish communities. Regional folk dancers performed traditional numbers while musicians played classical Spanish compositions. The queen accepted bouquets from school children representing different Spanish provinces. Each flower arrangement reflected regional characteristics, from Basque Country roses to Andalusian orange blossoms. These gifts symbolized national unity achieved through celebration of diversity. Local officials presented the royal couple with symbolic keys to the city, an honor reflecting Santiago's historical importance as destination for religious pilgrims. The ceremony acknowledged the monarchy's role in preserving Spanish cultural heritage while adapting to contemporary values and expectations. Television coverage of the ceremony would reach millions of viewers throughout Spain and Latin America. Royal events provided opportunities for cultural education, helping younger generations understand historical traditions that shaped modern Spanish identity. The broadcast included commentary explaining ceremonial significance and cultural context. Regional newspapers prepared special editions celebrating the royal visit, including interviews with local citizens and historical background about Santiago's role in Spanish development. Media coverage emphasized positive community impact while respecting the ceremony's spiritual dimensions. The king's brief remarks to gathered citizens emphasized gratitude for warm welcome while acknowledging Santiago's special place in Spanish history. His words connected contemporary Spain with centuries of pilgrimage tradition, emphasizing continuity despite social and political changes. Queen Letizia spoke in Galician, the regional language, demonstrating respect for linguistic diversity within Spanish unity. Her multilingual abilities reflected broader royal commitment to acknowledging and celebrating Spain's cultural complexity while maintaining national cohesion. As the ceremony concluded, the royal couple made their way through enthusiastic crowds toward waiting transportation. Their genuine warmth and accessibility during public interactions had strengthened bonds between monarchy and citizens, demonstrating effective constitutional leadership through personal engagement. The cathedral bells rang out across Santiago as the royal motorcade departed, their ancient bronze voices carrying celebration throughout the historic city. Thousands of visitors would remember this day as highlight of their pilgrimage experience, combining spiritual fulfillment with witness to living Spanish history and tradition. Evening television broadcasts across Spain featured extensive coverage of the Santiago ceremony, with news anchors emphasizing the reverent beauty of the royal couple's participation in ancient traditions. Social media platforms filled with photographs and videos shared by pilgrims and tourists, spreading images of the sacred moment far beyond Spain's borders to Spanish-speaking communities worldwide. In small villages throughout Galicia, elderly residents gathered around television sets in local cafes, discussing the ceremony with evident pride. Many had made the pilgrimage to Santiago themselves in younger years, understanding personally the spiritual significance of the cathedral and its place in Spanish Catholic heritage. The royal visit had honored their regional traditions while connecting them to national identity. University students in Madrid analyzed media coverage for communication studies projects, examining how traditional ceremonies could maintain relevance in contemporary society. Professor Elena Vasquez led seminar discussions about constitutional monarchy's role in preserving cultural continuity while adapting to democratic values and changing social expectations. The international press covered the ceremony as an example of European monarchies' evolution toward accessibility and authentic public service. British newspapers compared the Spanish approach to their own royal traditions, while French media emphasized the ceremony's demonstration of constitutional balance between spiritual heritage and secular governance. Queen Letizia's choice to speak Galician during public remarks received particular attention from linguistic scholars and regional autonomy advocates. Her multilingual approach had become a signature element of royal communication strategy, acknowledging Spain's linguistic diversity while promoting national unity through shared civic values. Within the Vatican, Spanish Cardinal Rodriguez prepared a detailed report about the ceremony for Pope Francis, emphasizing the constitutional monarchy's respectful approach to Catholic traditions. The Pope's own Spanish heritage created special interest in developments within the Spanish Church and its relationship with democratic institutions. Tourism officials in Santiago reported immediate increases in pilgrimage inquiries following television coverage of the royal visit. The ceremony had reminded global audiences of the ancient Camino de Santiago route, encouraging renewed interest in spiritual travel and cultural exploration of historic Spanish regions. Children from the cathedral choir shared their excitement about performing for the king and queen with classmates and family members. Their experience had connected young Spaniards directly with royal traditions while encouraging continued participation in cultural and religious activities that strengthen community bonds. Regional government leaders praised the royal couple's authentic engagement with Galician culture, noting their evident preparation and genuine respect for local customs. Such attention from national leadership helped validate regional identity within broader Spanish unity, addressing historical tensions between central authority and provincial autonomy. The Foundation Scholarship recipients who had met the royal couple at the previous evening's gala watched television coverage with special interest. They understood personally the monarchy's commitment to social progress, having experienced directly how royal advocacy could create opportunities for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. International monarchies studied Spanish royal communication techniques, particularly the balance between ceremonial dignity and democratic accessibility. The Swedish and Norwegian royal houses had requested detailed briefings about Spanish approaches to public engagement and cultural preservation within constitutional frameworks. Art historians prepared academic papers analyzing the visual symbolism of the cathedral ceremony, examining how traditional religious imagery adapted to contemporary political contexts. The royal couple's positioning, gestures, and ceremonial participation provided rich material for studying monarchy's cultural evolution. Spanish diplomats in Latin American countries reported positive reactions to ceremony coverage within Spanish-speaking communities abroad. The royal couple's demonstration of cultural continuity and spiritual heritage resonated strongly with overseas populations maintaining connections to Spanish traditions despite geographic separation. Fashion journalists focused particular attention on Queen Letizia's mantilla choice, noting how traditional Spanish accessories could project cultural authenticity without appearing outdated. Her consistent support of Spanish designers and craftspeople had economic impact while promoting national cultural identity through contemporary expression. The ceremony's television coverage would be preserved in Spanish national archives, becoming historical record for future generations studying early 21st century monarchy. Scholars decades hence would analyze these images to understand how constitutional kings and queens navigated religious traditions within secular democratic societies. Local Santiago businesses experienced immediate economic benefits from increased tourism interest generated by royal visit coverage. Hotels, restaurants, and souvenir shops reported booking increases as potential pilgrims planned visits to experience personally the sacred atmosphere they had witnessed through media coverage. The king and queen's personal reflection on the ceremony continued during their return journey to Madrid. They understood that public moments like these required careful balance between authentic spiritual participation and constitutional responsibilities to citizens of all faiths and philosophical perspectives. Seminary students throughout Spain discussed the ceremony's theological implications, examining how traditional religious authority related to democratic political structures. The royal couple's respectful participation had demonstrated possibilities for faithful engagement with sacred traditions within pluralistic society. European Union officials noted the ceremony as an example of successful cultural preservation within modern democratic institutions. Spain's approach to balancing regional traditions, national identity, and European integration provided models for other member nations facing similar challenges of unity within diversity. Photography from the ceremony appeared in international exhibitions celebrating contemporary royal portraiture. Museums in London, Copenhagen, and Brussels requested permission to include images in collections documenting European monarchies' evolution toward democratic engagement and cultural authenticity. The royal couple's private evening conversation included satisfaction about the day's successful navigation of complex ceremonial requirements. Their partnership had enabled seamless coordination of constitutional duties with personal faith, demonstrating how modern monarchy could honor tradition while serving contemporary democratic values. Spanish-language teachers in schools worldwide incorporated ceremony footage into cultural education curricula, using royal participation in traditional celebrations to illustrate connections between historical heritage and current Spanish identity. Students learned about constitutional monarchy while exploring religious and linguistic traditions. Social scientists began longitudinal studies examining public opinion changes following royal ceremonial appearances. Initial surveys suggested that authentic participation in cultural traditions strengthened citizen support for constitutional monarchy, validating approaches emphasizing service over privilege. The ceremony's impact extended beyond immediate participants to influence broader understanding of monarchy's role in preserving cultural heritage. Academic conferences scheduled sessions analyzing how European royal families could maintain relevance through authentic engagement with national traditions rather than mere ceremonial performance. As evenings settled over Spain, millions of citizens carried memories of the sacred moment they had witnessed between their king and queen. The gentle kiss shared in Santiago's ancient cathedral had embodied centuries of Spanish history, while pointing toward a future where tradition and progress could coexist through mutual respect and shared commitment to the common good. The lasting significance of that courteous exchange would resonate through Spanish culture for generations, representing a moment when personal affection, spiritual tradition, and national identity united in simple gesture of enduring love and dedicated service to their beloved country and its people.